Well, hello again. I'm about to enter that door and start putting all the pieces and parts together to our Juke. And hopefully when I'm all done, we flip a switch and the select-o-matic mechanism will go back and forth. If it does that, then we know we're home free. There's no guarantee we're going to get it all done today. I want you to know that. There's no guarantee we'll get it all done in this video. But there is a guarantee that something else will happen. We're going to do our Mountain Man breakfast, which is already underway. Mountain Man breakfast on the stove with an iron skillet. I got some onions and Italian sausage, and I took some, I have some mixed bell peppers and onions frozen. Threw a few in there after the Italian sausage was browned up and the onion kind of looked caramelized. Then we throw in the bell peppers. Over here I've got some bacon. We're going to fry up the bacon because that's going to go in later too. One of the items from our last video that drew quite a bit of attention was the numbering strip, the record rack numbering strip. I was kind of surprised over that. I didn't think people would be that much interested in it. I have an offer from Ron C., our good subscriber Ron C. down in Florida, to redo this paper strip with the numbers on it, and I greatly appreciated that. However, what I'm going to do is I've already started it. I cleaned it up a little bit with a pencil eraser. I taped it all together on the back with tape, and then trimmed off the excess tape, and then went ahead and kind of cleaned it up with a pencil eraser. I just kind of went back and forth very gently, and it brought out a lot of the white. And then I scanned it on my printer, and this is what you're looking at right now is the scan. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we're going to give it a try. Boy, this old camera's having a tough time with that white paper. It just can't seem to do it. Anyway, what we're going to do is spray it now with clear enamel. We're frying this at just below mid-range on the heat. That's electric range. I don't want it to cook too fast. I don't want it to cook too slow, so it's just slightly below the mid-range. Over here our bacon's doing alright. Wifey wants it crisp, so we're going to make it crisp. That's after 2 coats of satin clear. I think I'll give it a couple more coats. It's coming along pretty good. It's getting to where you can really see the numbers and everything. I like that. And I get to use the original, which is cool. Remember these rubber bumpers? Most of you probably forgot all about them. One goes at one end, so when the carriage comes over it bumps against it, and the other one goes at the other end down in there. And the problem we had, I wanted to order a new set, but the problem we had was this one here had a chewed up bottom. You can see it from being banged all those years. So I contacted an outfit that sells these things, and it was a pretty good deal. They wanted $5 for the two brand new bumpers like this, rubber bumpers. But I thought that was great, but then they wanted $9 to ship them. I'm not spending $14 to get these 2 little rubber bumpers. That's just not going to happen. Turned out I didn't have to do it anyway. All I did was turn it, see where it was pretty well chewed up. I just turned it to the bottom, and it's a little bit wobbly down in there. I'm going to slap a bunch of super glue down in there. We're going to super glue this thing onto the metal, and it'll last for many years to come. One more thing on these bumpers before we move on. You'll notice that the bumper can go in one of 2 holes, and when you put it back in your rack, it has to be, the rubber bumper is to the rear, away from the teeth, okay? You don't want it up underneath here where it's not going to get hit by the mechanism when it comes down. It'll be too far up underneath the gears. To the rear and to the rear. We are getting ready to put these springs and everything between the mounting plate and these slide things that came out of the cabinet up there in the top. And in order to do that, I need all the necessary parts. Unfortunately, there was one of these missing right from the beginning. Does anybody out there who has any old spare parts, does anybody have one of these? The way this thing works is this goes on top of there like that, and then this goes on top of there like that, and then the whole mechanism, or each one of these springs setups, go between the two, which raises it up actually, like so. Gets it up high so those big cables can get underneath without being torn up, and it gives it a good, you know, shock vibration mount. And then of course once that's done, then the washer and the nut go on. I bought brand new washers. We now have enough washers to go around. There wasn't enough to begin with, but the nut I used the old ones. They were okay. Just clean them up a little bit. So what I need is one of these. One more thing. This thing here was up through the bottom of one of these, like so, inside the spring, like so. And this thing here was sitting on top of it, or one of them, you know. What is that? Is some kind of adjustment thing, or is it one of these shipping things where you tighten it down real tight and it just clamps the entire mechanism real tight to these things right here so they don't wiggle around? Now that we've got it all ready to go, we're going to throw some hash browns on there. Now you can take potatoes and dice them up if you want, or you can buy the diced up potatoes and you put as many on as you want. This is a mountain man breakfast. This is for men, mountain men, although women like it too, okay? Well, I guess we can stop at this point and take a little break and show you something. I finally figured out what this thing is all about. It took me a while, because there was only one in the entire setup when I bought the jukebox, and it was, I think when I removed this thing right here, it just sort of fell out on the wood like that. Here's what this is. It goes up through the center. Once you get your metal piece at the top of the rubber like that, and you get your rubber bushing in and your spring, this thing here goes up through the center. And that's why there's felt on the inside of these things. You oil that felt, which enables this thing to turn once it's up in there. Okay? Now, once you get it up in there, it looks like this. And that metal thing is up, you know, raised above the rubber bushing. And it sits in there like this one here is. This one would sit like back here. Okay, and it screws into these holes on the bottom of the plate, and you can then use the screwdriver slot in the bottom. Once it gets put on these aluminum or these metal things, you adjust them up and down to level the mechanism in all four corners. Isn't that cool? So this would screw up into there like so, just like that. So I guess you would put them on first, and then set the whole thing down on this, and then tip it up and keep adjusting them, I guess, on a level surface until it's nice and level. I guess it needs to be that. So what do we do now? Oh, I'm going to have to come up with something similar to this. Maybe a trip to the hardware store is in order. The old trip to the hardware store was worth it. I picked up these sleeves, and these screws will go inside the sleeves, and it'll look like this once it's done. And it turns out that the sleeve is the exact same length as the barrel of the original screw. Look at there, perfect, exactly the same. Do it like this where you can see better, I guess. Just like that. Look at that, perfect. And this here, all I have to do now is cut it off. I got this nut there, so when I cut that screw off, we'll do it just like that. We'll cut it off right here at the bottom of that nut, and then it'll be the same length as this shaft right here, and it'll work fine. Let me before I cut it, let me stick it in. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And here they are side by side. This is the original. It sticks out the bottom about that far, about like that. And then this one here, keep in mind we still have to cut off the bolt, the nut, but sticks out the bottom that far. Perfect, huh? Okay, so far so good. I got 2 of them on, and I still have 2 of them to go. The problem here now is I'm missing one of these as well. You know, it sits on top of that baby like that, and then this whole thing goes up through the bottom. So what do we do? Well, we looked through our junk pile, and I came up with an old knob. I think it's off an old Heath kit of some kind, I'm not sure. And the diameter is the same as the top. Okay. And it's a little taller though, but I think I can cut it down to where it might work. Well, so far so good, kids. All I did was just take the old cutting blade on the, this little black carbon, whatever they call it. Anyway, cut it down to size. Now, in order to get the hole right, I'm going to take this one, turn it upside down on top of this one, and run my drill bit down through this hole here, all the way through. All done. That's the best I could do in short notice, guys. It seems to be working. Everything fits perfect. Now, this might be just one or two threads longer than this one, but hey, too bad. Let's see if it'll go in. Well, there we go. Works fine. Lasts a long time. Everything is in, although I would still like to get the original pins, 3 of them, and that original gold, thing down here that I took the place of with that knob. I'd like to get those and take these off and put the right stuff in there. But for now, it appears that we have a fix in place. I have 4 eggs that I'm whisking up here. It's always best to use a whisk instead of a fork. You get a much better mix. We're now to the fun part. I'm going to try to get this selectomatic mechanism to sit upright on this thing, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it or not, but well, no success yet, because this plate right here that holds this cable is in my way. And I don't like things that are in my way. So we are going to take this thing off and then put it back on, hopefully after the mechanism is installed. One thing I want to caution you about, though, if you ever have this type of situation where it won't go in, you're jostling it around, remember, this is your reverse switch. Got to be careful of this thing. If it breaks, you got big problems. Well, still no luck. I have to get a wheel on the opposite side, like I said, and then those spring wheels on this side, both at the same time. Now, could it be that I have to load it in from this end of the plate instead of the other? I don't know. I just love a challenge, don't you? Nope, it does not go on from this side. You see this right here? That's short. And this one's long. There's a reason for that. It's got to go on from this end. Well, we're just having a wonderful time here trying to get this thing on. I've got it upside down now. Let's see if I can put it on that way. Well, still no cigar, so that only leaves us one option. One option is left. I'm going to have to remove the clutch, or at least loosen it up to where it'll come out a little bit to give me more room to fit the gear down in there and all that other crap between those wheels. The only option left, the only one I can think of. Actually, there is one more option. Coffee time. The clutch is out. It was right there. Let's try it again. Challenge accepted. Challenge met. Look at here. You betcha. There is a trick to this. I figured it out. You put in one wheel here, or at least part of a wheel, then you slide it all the way down, and the other set of wheels back in here will drop down here. Then you slide it all the way back, and the last one will drop in permanently here. At least that's the trick I figured out, and it works great. She's now in there, and of course our nice blue paint got a few scratches in the process, but that's okay. I went ahead and added some of this complete seasoning. I'll tell you what, this is the greatest stuff for just about anything. Okay, here we go. Now, if 4 eggs isn't enough, I'll just whip up a couple more. It doesn't matter to me. I'm all for it. You only live once. You only live once. Old Mac, I think, is over there smelling all this good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and smooth it all around. I don't know. I may wind up throwing in 1 or 2 more eggs to that. It looks pretty good. Everything is now on the bench that we're going to need to test this thing out. I'll be moving stuff around. It, of course, won't be in this exact position. There's our keyboard. There's our pricing unit. Here's our toroid memory unit and our stereo network box. The wires that go to the speaker that connect to that box that go into the amplifier. We've got our tour mat and our amplifier. We've got our record rack on. The only thing I have to do now, today is Wednesday. That gives me Thursday, Friday, and most of the day Saturday to get this thing up and give it a trial run. I should be able to do it, but there are some things that need to be done. I need to patch a crack in the speaker. I need to set this thing up utilizing the single pricing unit for free play. I need to install a fuse. This tour mat, this is the power transformer for the whole works right here. And there's a 325 volt winding in there. I want to put a fuse in the primary. No, the secondary. I want to put a fuse in the secondary to where it comes out and connects to those diodes I put in the 6X4. It'll be down in here where the wires go across to it. And I have to take off all these little patches. I left them on to keep dirt and everything out while I was messing around with everything else. But I want to take off all this tape, clean out all the pins for all the sockets. It's going to be a busy 2.5 days, 3 days, you know. But like I said, if it doesn't get done on Saturday, well, it's the way it goes. You know, we'll pick it up in the next video. Can't rush it at this stage. Now we'll go ahead and toss in some bacon. Throw it right in there on top. Might break it up into some smaller pieces. I wanted you to see how I did this fuse business. I just took some JB Quick and glued this fuse holder down there. Then soldered that inline fuse in. That way, you know, you can go either fuse. If this thing blows and the guy down the line doesn't have any of these, he can just pluck that out of there and go ahead and just stick a regular fuse in. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment of truth has arrived. I've got everything hooked up. I've done everything I can possibly think of to get this thing to function. That doesn't mean everything was done. I just said that that's everything I could think of. Sometimes my thinking is not quite enough. And so with Brendan's help, we've accomplished a lot so far. Let's see if it's going to work. Of course, if it functions perfectly, I'm going to take all the credit. If it doesn't work at all, it's Brendan's fault. All right, let's switch it on. I've got one side of the tour mat held up with this 2x4 so I can get underneath the switch. And then we're going to see if all the tubes light up. I'm going to shut off the lights and see if all the tubes are lighting up. Here we go. She's on. Nothing yet. Let's turn the lights off. Well, so far so good. Now we're going to go ahead and add some cheese to this. Lots of cheese, cover the whole thing up. Well, I do not see a single tube glowing. Well, this is not good. What the heck could be causing that problem? The tour mat tubes are not glowing. The amplifier tubes are not glowing. Look at that. Totally dead. Well, let me snoop around a little bit. Well, snooping around paid off a little bit. I found a wire out that had come out of pin 3 of J501. This won't have anything to do with the filaments, though. I also found a problem with our 5-amp fuse holder on the tour mat. The problem was there was no fuse in it. God, you know, I must have taken it out and cleaned it and forgot to put it back. I don't even know where it went. It may have never had one in there. I don't remember. We've been at this. By the way, 6 months today. Today is 6 months and 15 days we've been at this. I appreciate everybody that hung with me. Well, she's in the oven at 350. I'm only going to bake it about 10 minutes and then we'll pull it out, take a look at it. If it needs a little bit more, we'll put it in there. It was pretty hot from the top of the stove. We'll take a look at it. The wire has been fixed, and a quick trip downtown garnered me some 5-amp fuses. That 5-amp fuse, by the way, fed this power transformer, which supplies power to the whole shebang. The tip-off, that it probably was a fuse or an open winding, was that there were no filaments lit on any tubes on either chassis. That meant supply voltage was missing. So you look there first, and of course in the process I found that broken wire. I'm glad I did. But let's see what happens now. I'm going to go ahead and plug her back in and flip the old switch on. Ooh, I do hear noise. Do we hear noise? Well, we hear hum. Let's turn the lights off, see if we get any tubes lit up. Well, how about that, huh? We are getting tubes lit up everywhere. Look at that. Well, I got rid of the hum. The test, the phono speaker test was it was in the test position. Let me feel if I got to get anything hot here. I don't think we're getting anything that's hot. I smell something. That's not always good, you know. Oh, look at here. Oh, look at there. Uh-oh. Well, there it is, guys. Still bubbling a little bit around the edges. Just take it. I only put it in there for about 7 or 8 minutes. That's really all it needed. We'll let it cool down for a while and then stick her on the table. But I know that Sky Carl and I know that Scott Johnston, our good subscribers, are smacking their lips saying, you know, I should have went down to Arkansas today. Alright, let's do a quick summation here as to what's going on. Our motor works, which is real good because you can see the turntable going around and around, and that's going around and around also. Our power supply is working over here, what we did in the Tormat. And we're getting power over here to the rectifier tube on the amplifier. We do not have amplifier, the rest of the tubes, the filaments are not working. Now that means another supply problem. It comes from this transformer here, and it runs out to this plug that goes between the two chassis that connects them together and supplies all your filament voltage. So I need to run, you know, the ohm meter through there to find out where the wire is disconnected or something. It's the supply. And our latch solenoid will not operate when we press the free play button we connected to the single pricing unit. Now it works down in the single pricing unit. Unfortunately, the mechanical mechanism is not turning, and for some reason we're not getting power down this wire all the way around to the latch mechanism, so where it can release the buttons and I can press them in. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is what happens when you you get a free play. It's just like dropping in a coin here. Okay, but like I said, that credit wheel, they call it, is not turning. So there may be something wrong with that solenoid down in there. It's one little problem after another, but we've come a long way. The motor's good, power supply is good. Find out what's keeping the filaments, which should be an easy fix. Keep them from lighting. And this will be probably our main problem right here, trying to get that wheel to turn, because I could have a bad solenoid, like I said, because without it, this doesn't work. And I tried doing it by hand, but it just won't stay. It wouldn't have done any good anyway. We need an amplifier, okay? And of course you heard the speakers earlier, so we know our speakers are good. We know that this is good. Big progress, but unfortunately right now it's no cigar. Well, it tastes pretty good with the old hot sauce on there, even though our juke didn't turn out so hot. You know, we gave it the old college try, but we're going to come back. We're going to do it again. Don't you worry about that. I'm talking about the Mountain Man breakfast now. We will fix the jukebox with no problem. We will get to the bottom of it. Until next time, this is John. A little PS here. Our service switch appears to be working okay. When I move this thing to the right, the motor will begin. And I'll show you here. Right now, it's I have it shut off. Okay, move the switch now. See how it starts to go. And this gear up here is turning. This gear over here down in there is turning. The shaft going all the way down to the bottom of the transmission is turning. The clutch is turning. Then the gear at the bottom is not turning. The shaft inside the clutch gear is just going round and round. Nothing's happening, so it's not engaging. Maybe it's not supposed to at this point. And the way you shut this thing off is you flip this switch twice to the right, like so. And that shuts everything back down to where we were. and this remains in the neutral position. Now when I go to the left, nothing is happening. So there's definitely a connection problem somewhere.